Well, welcome back then to the Andy Holding Speed Figures YouTube channel. Sam Turner alongside Andy Holding, looking back at day 2 of the Cheltenham Festival and forward to day 3 with our exclusive preview. And Andy, it was some day again at Prestbury Park.
It was, yes. Where do you start, really, to be honest? I mean, the first 2 races were small fields, but they were fascinating all the same. And I think a year down the line, we'll be talking about these 2 horses probably more predominant than any of the other winners on the card. Excuse me. Particularly Bob Ollinger in the first. I think he did a lot wrong, and he still won. Not through no fault of his own, just really the way the race panned out. So Rachel Blackmore was rather caught in between the devil and the deep blue sea a few times. She tried to chase the winner, Brave Man's Game, the front runner. Then she tucked him behind, and he still tanked up the hill. I thought that Galopin de Mesnil, our selection, had every chance, and he just wasn't good enough on the day. But for me, the star performer was Monkfish. He got even more wrong in his race. Had he jumped a little bit more fluently early on and got into a better rhythm, which is more in keeping with what he's done before, it's quite uncharacteristic from him to make so many errors. I think we would have seen a performance of even more startling brilliance. He still won by a good 10 lengths. But 6, sorry, yeah, it seemed like 10. I think he could have doubled or even trebled that had he not made at least 2 or 3, like I say, notable errors on the way around. He kind of like went for a stride, and then Paul Townend did, and he put down and he made a couple of judging errors, including one at the last. He had the loose horse to mess him around. It just shows you how good he is. So yeah, I think whoever wins the Gold Cup will be quaking in their boots with Monkfish and potentially Envoy Allen tomorrow breathing down their neck.
I think he will have learnt a lot, Monkfish, today. I don't think that was his A game by any stretch of the imagination. So to go and win by 6 lengths, despite doing so much wrong, is a tremendous performance. I was left a little bit underwhelmed by the performance, if I'm honest. But I do wonder whether he's the kind of horse that he's probably put quite a lot into those 2 or 3 previous runs. And just whether he was absolutely cherry ripe today. He got a lot to lose. And you could sort of sense that in the whole performance in the saddle from Paul Townend a little bit, including through the day, really. No real reason to be sort of very passive as he was, but I felt he got a little bit schooled by Rachel Blackmore this afternoon. Just kept in pockets in various races as well, and outridden in the bumper. And I just wonder whether Monkfish felt that a little bit today. Just felt the nervousness and I was just very tentative throughout the race for me.
Yes, good point you make, Sam. I'll certainly go along with your sentiments with the last race. The bumper, quite clear from a very early stage that the race was being dictated to suit the winner. Albeit, give Phil fair credit. I mean, he was off the bridle and struggling coming down the hill, and then he's really stayed on in the style of us, which he looked like at Leopardstown. Just think he got done for tactical speed, but that was more, like I say, due to Rachel Blackmore's brilliance. But yeah, Monkfish himself, going back to him, like I say, he was just a little bit unsure of himself, or guess it 1 or 2. Stride was half there, and I think Monkfish, had he been a little bit more perhaps familiar with the surroundings or a little bit braver, he probably would have picked up, but he just looked after himself, put down, and he got taken on as well. And I think Harry Cobden sensed it on the big breakaway. He thought, I've got a chance. I keep half length in. If I can just tuck him in and keep him in that pocket, I'm half a length ahead. Yeah. He might just miss another one. I could see what Cobden was thinking. I think he did the right thing on Collins's charge. But it's only a horse like Monkfish and his ability for a starter, but his mental strength, and could ride those punches and still come back and win the way. Yeah. He's now won ugly twice at Cheltenham. And like I say, I think he hasn't really come here and give us a wow moment like he has at Leopardstown. So, as I say, I think there's more to come from him.
Yeah, for sure. He will have learnt more today than absolute, bolting up and winning by 20 lengths and cantering all over everything. So, I think that was it. The first ditch as well. That just he sort of banked it almost. He almost landed on top of it. He looked for a stride really that wasn't really there. And I wonder whether that just scared him and unnerved him a little bit. But anyway,
like I say, I think we've given our appraisals of him. The next is to say, obviously, it was a good circuit time as well. I did the circuit time straight away, and it was much better than the champion Chase. And it was better than Shiskin the day before as well, roughly round by about 5 lengths. So similar to last year's RSA when we had Milliner in down champ. and the year before as well, with top of the game, running their last circuit quicker than the Champion Chase. So I think we're dealing all the beat with a small field with another potentially very good horse there.
Good horses. Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get on to day 3 then, Andy. Yeah. We've got the potential to see another superstar here in Mwalynn, who faces 7 rivals in the Marsh Novices Chase. He's going to be around about a 1 to 2 chance. What's the angle you see here? Do you see any of the others that you want to be with each way to beat him?
Not particularly. No, I'm quite happy because I do fancy my chances through the rest of the card. So I'm quite happy to sit this one out. If you force me for a bet, I'd probably look towards perhaps something like Chatham Street Lad without the favourite, because I think he'll be ridden with the view to pick up the pieces late on. Famous last words, because obviously Franco Deport didn't exactly do us proud on that, albeit Eldorado Allen did. So you get the picture, that kind of horse, a Nubia Negra today, for instance, So you've got Asturian Forlonge, you've got Blackbow, you've got Envoy Allen, and of course Blue, all wanting to make the running or be very handy. So you'd imagine that Darrell Keefe will give Mickey Winters, his 9-year-old, a similar ride to what he got in the Caspian Caviar. And, he's the only course and distance. Well, there's 2 course and distance winners, but the only recent course and distance winner, shall we say, in the field. 2.5 miles his trip. Ground's fine. He's gone on good to soft before over in Ireland. So, yeah, he'd be my token choice because they had to pin me down to something.
Okay, well, let's get on to a more meatier betting race, the Pertemps Handicap Hurdle, with 6 and 7 places probably on offer in the village in the morning. Your long-term fancy for this is the Boss's Oscar.
Yeah, put him on the strongest views of the week, Sam, this fella. Ever since he ran last year in the boys' race, finished 5th, I think Connections have had this race on their mind. They're campaigning very much with this as their target. It's classic Gordon Elliott in inverted commas. Having won it in the last 3 years with Sir de Berlin Delta Work, using that Pertemps qualifier as the final piece in the jigsaw. He was second to Flooring Port at the time before, so that form doesn't look too shabby either. And the circuit sectionals once again were better than the Grade 1 on that card back in December. He only touched him with a stick twice as well, so it was very much a case of job done once he'd run into the frame, or he looked like he was, once he was headed, he kind of just nursed him home. And they've booked that very good condition as well. Jordan Gainford, just to offset the fact that the English handicapper didn't want to get caught out 3 times in a row. So he technically runs it off the same mark as last time out. So very keen on him. And out of that race as well, you can make cases out for Mrs. Milner, who was very handily ridden. She figured best of those that was prominently ridden that day. Got Cheltenham form with the second beyond on the blind side. Won on good ground at the Galway Festival, beating the Stella Field and Mare. She's used to running in big fields. And Anything Will Do as well. It was also 5th in the qualifier. So similar to last year, the first 3 home, with the first 3 out, with the chief contenders out of that Pertemps qualifier. My biggest bet is on the Boss's Oscar, but I'm definitely going to turn those other 2 in some combinations and some each-way multiples to try and get as much as I can out of that form line.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And Jordan Gainsford, I think he's had something like 30+ rides in the last couple of weeks. So they really drilled him and sort of got him race fit. And, they've obviously had a target in mind that he's going to ride this horse and perhaps 1 or 2 other high-profile horses as the week wears on. And he's been getting plenty of match practice, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's very handy to have a lad like him, isn't it, who's riding like a fully fledged professional already. I'd imagine he was much sought after for the boys' race on Friday. I haven't looked at who he's riding, but I'd imagine he was the go-to man, or one of the go-to men there. So yeah, very, very intriguing jockey booking. So yeah, it'll lack for nothing in the saddle anyway.
No, absolutely not. Going on to what looks like it could well be another burn-up, the RyanAir Chase. I mean, this looks a terrific renewal. A lot of stick is handed Cheltenham's way with these new races that they've sort of come up with. Obviously, the RyanAir is not a brand new race that they've introduced into the festival, but it's relatively recent. But I do think this has been one of the success stories, and they've been rewarded with 14 runners and a really terrific race with loads of pace on as well, from my eye.
Absolutely, Sam. Yeah, name your front runner. I think it's got harder to name the front runner than name the winner. Alaho, Min, Imperial Aura, Melon if he's aggressively ridden, Dashiell Drasher. So yeah, one mistake in the area here, really. I think I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for Mr. Fisher.
Mm.
Rude he's running last year's marsh. I quite fancied him that day, and things just didn't really pan out for him.
Yeah,
he's got done for pace, and he went the front three quick and away from him. But he stayed on well, and he looked back to form the other day with his run. Well, I say the other day, it's 97 days ago, but he looked back to something kind of his best. Fast ground is very much the key to him. It'll be better than it was last year. I could do with being a little bit better form. Obviously, they've had the winner Shiskin, and several have run well at nice prices to hit the frame, but just a little bit of an underlying feeling that not everything is sparkling at that stable. But the horse itself, I think he's got a great chance. So at this very moment in time, I'm looking towards him, although it's right down the food chain with regards to confident betting races.
Yeah, okay. He's definitely on my shortlist as well, along with Mwalynn, who's finished second at this at the festival for the last 4 years. Incredible. Yeah. And probably St Calvados, who should really enjoy the strong pace, and hopefully Gavin Sheehan can enjoy a bit better day tomorrow than he's enjoyed so far.
Yeah. I'd ride him on Rouge Vision in many respects. You wouldn't have had him necessarily as a front runner, and that didn't work out.
No.
I think the ground's in punt to St Calvados. He won't want it to dry out too much. He hits the ground quite hard, and soft ground fine, but genuine good ground tomorrow. If they don't do anything with anything with the irrigation, it might just not be as ideal for him as it was last year.
Fair enough. Swiftly moving on to the Paddy Power Stays Hurdle then. Another cracking renewal, 15 runners, bound to be 4 places, maybe even 5 in a place. Are you still with your long-term aim here, Cider Burley?
Yeah, no real reason to desert him at this late hour. His preparation has gone smoothly. A win in a Grade 2 and a good third in a slowly run Grade 1. Those are the only 2 real races he was eligible to run in over in Ireland. He could have come over here and perhaps took on those in the long walk at Ascot, but pointless really. He's very much been trained for this race in mind. Having won the last 2 Pertemps Hurdle, it was a natural progression, wasn't it? With a 160 horse, you can't run in the handicap anymore. And we know how he just comes alive, like Tiger Roll. I mean, I wrote off Tiger Roll to my peril today. And Sir de Burley's the same. He's a 9-year-old, but he just loves it. He just comes alive. He's absolutely mustard here. Similar to Tiger Roll, this will be his 4th year at the festival. He's placed in the boys' race and he's won the last 2 editions of the Pertemps. The Pertemps, as we know, have been well documented. I've gone on about it. It was a very good time figure. Sectionals are better than last year's Stayers Hurdle. So if you use last year's Stayers Hurdle as a guide, and quite a few of these come here off that, including Paisley Park, he should hold his own or have every chance if he's in the same form. No reason to think he won't be. I'd certainly give the Storyteller a fair shout. He's the same form line, and he's had a couple of spins recently to suggest he's in great nick. One over fences, one over hurdles. So I think if you've already backed Sir de Burley like I have, you're looking at sort of double figure quotes around about 10, 11 to 1 for the Storyteller. He's not a bad option if you haven't already got involved in the race and didn't want to back perhaps Sir de Burley. But I think it's strong form. The yards obviously flying. They're both come here fit and look raring to go. So you'd be disappointed if one of those 2 don't show their hand over a track which clearly suits them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking at Keith Donohue's stats on the Storyteller, he must have ridden it 7, 8, 9 times. I think they've only been at the 2 once, and that was in the Flogal or the Novice Chase at Leopardstown. So, I mean, tremendously good partnership and combination, those 2. Cider Burley with a little bit each way on the Storyteller then. The Paddy Power Plate Handicap Chase, a horse that you might have a little bit of an investment in here, is likely to be sort of a quite warm order for this, and that's the Shunter.
Yeah, once this race has been his nominated choice, he was always going to shorten up, wasn't it? I think he was entered in everything, wasn't he, pretty much, all the handicaps, County Hurdle, Grand Annual.
5 entries, I think he had.
He had 5 entries, but they've decided to come here in the view perhaps there wouldn't be so many sneaky novices in this, and perhaps there wouldn't be any Willie Mullins horses to take on like there would be in the County Hurdle that are running Grade 1s, for instance. So I think on balance this is probably the better or the wiser shout. I think stepping up to 2.5 miles wouldn't be a problem. He's got plenty of form over 2.5. He always looked as though 2.5. He's a strong start at 2, but he does get further. I think the rhythm of this race will help him as well. because he's back over fences. And, he ran a blinder, didn't he, last time over 2 miles in that race, which Tukas flew the flag for really strongly today. Michuka also as well, who ran in that race, he's won since. So it was a pretty hot race at the Dublin Racing Festival. Like I said, the Moore battle suggests he's in great form. And there's not a million, there's £100,000 on the table as well. So they've got to get it right. They booked John Gainford as well, just to put the icing on the cake to make sure that they're as well treated as possible. Ground's not a problem. He won on fast ground at Down Patrick, I think it was, just over a year ago. And if you can go downhill at Down Patrick on good to firm ground, you'll have no problem handling Cheltenham. So he's definitely one to consider. And I also quite like Sully Dock as well. Now he's come here. They were toying with the idea of the Grand Nanny, but they've gone over his correct trip, 2.5 miles. That Scott race, as every single horse that ran behind him has come out of it and won, even including Chunkomole, who pulled up the other day. He went and won at and he probably should have won at Newby last time out, but for taking the last fence as a souvenir. Again, the winner of that race, though, Clondell Castle's won since. It's not exactly shabby form as it stands. No. And he also creeps in down towards the foot. So I've had a couple of bets in this race, the Shunter and Sully Dock.
Okay, brilliant. What about the Mares Novices Hurdle then? This is a race that we've previewed extensively. Keep it brief because you can actually catch that preview on the YouTube channel, can't you? You've given us an extensive preview of that race, but the 4:15, just briefly in a sentence.
Again, no real reason to think we haven't done the right thing. We've got Rosie's Hollow Galloise representing that 4 miling along with Royal Kahala. I think Royal Kahala, 3 for 3 going into that race on heavy ground at Fairy House, will probably be the one most inconvenienced by today in my mind, or tomorrow. Very, very happy with Rosie's Hollow. And their build-up's gone well apparently, and Galloise on better ground I think has got a good chance of maybe not necessarily turning the form around, but getting a bit closer. Willie Mullins has won the race five years out of 5, so you've got to factor in whatever he runs. I don't think Mighty Blue's out of it either. She finished 4th in the race, and the better ground will suit her. I see her sort of in and around the 14, 16 and 1 mark. Joseph O'Brien's a bit lucky this afternoon with Tim Tukas, so he'll be ruining his luck a little bit there, but she could run well. But yeah, Galloise and Rosie's Hollow, I can't remember what price we advised, maybe 15 to 2 and 10s, and they're probably 2 or 3 shorter. So the work's done. Let's just hope they run well. Absolutely.
And the finale, the Kinmure, Footwalking Kinmure, looks a typically testing renewal for punters. I've got a bit of a squeak for Hold the Note. I thought he might run well. What's your view?
Well, given the form of the Henry Bromhead stable, you'd have to include Plan of Attack into your thought process. His form this year hasn't been that great, but he didn't run too badly in the Paddy Power Chase behind Castlebourne Western ground he wouldn't have liked. I don't think he really liked the ground here last year when he finished 4th in this race. And you often find with these handicaps like Vintage Clouds, they come back in the same race the year after and run well again. And he's got the blinkers on. I noticed that he wore the cheek pieces last year, but they're going to try different headgear. Headgear's first time out in these kind of races is quite a good angle, I like. So he'd be high up on the shortlist. And a sneaky one as well. I think he's 33 to 1, 40 to 1 in the place. John McConnell's go another one. John McConnell's done really well with the horses he brings over here. He won with a horse that unfortunately couldn't make Cheltenham early on in the season that sprung through the ranks. I can't remember its name now. But go another one. He's absolutely massively ground dependent. You go back and look at all his career record on good or good to firm ground. He's deadly. He's run some very good races on soft or heavy ground in Ireland on soft ground. But he comes here fresh. I think he ran beyond the Boss's Oscar last time out, funny enough, at Thurles the last time he ran. But yeah, I quite like him at a big price. Millanford was the other one I was toying with because Nick Mitchell's also in good form and he's running a couple of graded novice events. So there's like 2 or 3 against 2. I've got 2 or 3 on my mind there, but Plan of Attack from last year's form line and definitely go another one. He looks massively overpriced.
Yeah, and Simon Torrens riding as well, who's absolutely brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Good jockey booking for him. So
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's a race just to tinker around with a bit of fun. It's not going to go mad, but there's reasonable sense behind those anyway.
Okay. Very briefly, pleasing result today with the Selector Pick winning at decent odds as well. The Champion Chase, that was an encouraging performance and continues the good week. What do you think might be on the shortlist for tomorrow's Selector?
It's a difficult one, really. I think the strategy would be probably Sir de Burley and the Storyteller. I think that's probably the wisest race to have a crack at. You know, they come out well on the figures. They've got Cheltenham Festival form. They're in good nick. The yard's in good form. The prices are still viable enough for perhaps an each-way bet on Sir de Burley. You know, I think he's around 11-2, isn't he? Maybe 6-1 in places. I'm updated that, but and perhaps a little small each way, perhaps a point each way on the 1.5, a point each way on the Storyteller. But
we'll have a little conflab about that and update the page very shortly.
Yeah, it's looking very much likely that I think that's going to be the race we're going to have a crack at.
Okay, make sure you've got accounts with 4 places, because I think we'll be attacking that, won't we?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, Andy, that's absolutely brilliant. And I think Andy Bates is going to step into my shoes tomorrow night, because I'm doing a bit of William Hill work. So you'll have the pleasure of his company tomorrow to chat about the Gold Cup and perhaps have a think back on a fantastic third day with the Stayers Hurdle, the other Pinnacle, and the RyanAir, another tremendous renewal. So plenty for you to go at tomorrow night.
Yeah, definitely, Sam. It's been great so far. Really enjoyed it, and just keep kicking going. That's all we can do.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers, Sam.